I want to talk about Texas for a moment, where Trump's election lies just got a step closer to becoming an official part of the Republican platform. Again, this happened in Texas this weekend at the GOP convention in Houston. Let's go to CNN politics reporter and editor-at-large Chris Cillizza. Chris, walk us through this.
Yeah, Anna. So first to note, the Texas Republican Party had not met formally in a convention setting since 2018. I guess they made up for lost time. All right, so let's just start with some of what is in the Republican platform that was approved this weekend. Quick note, all this stuff has to be formalized later, but we expect that it will be. Okay, first of all, it approved a measure that Biden was not legitimately elected. This is, I'm going to write this because it's important. Not true. My mom is going to yell at me for my poor penmanship, but that says not true. They rebuke the 10 GOP senators who have backed the bipartisan gun reform bill, obviously still talking about what the text will look like, what they'll do, but that includes, right here, that includes John Cornyn of Texas. I'm going to get back to him. And they declared homosexuality an abnormal lifestyle choice. That's some of what they did in terms of the platform. Now, here's some of what they said. Let's play it. This is about John Cornyn, senator from Texas, and Dan Crenshaw, member of Congress from Texas, both Republicans. Let's play that.
McCain. Hey, I Patch McCain. Look at I Patch McCain right here. You're a rhino. You're a globalist. You're a globalist rhino. You're a globalist rhino. Kid, you're a globalist rhino. I Patch McCain.
So let's just put a little context on it. The guy screaming I Patch McCain at Dan Crenshaw. I don't know if that guy knew this or not, but let's educate him. Dan Crenshaw lost his eye while serving in Afghanistan. So there's that. There's also that incredibly awkward thing that politicians occasionally have to endure, where you saw John Cornyn in that first clip. There's just booing going on, and he's got that like, please let this end, smile on his face. So you can see that this speaks to the fact neither of these guys, Cornyn or Crenshaw, are moderates at all. And yet they're being booed, they're being cajoled, they're being bullied at their own party's convention. It's remarkable.
And so much of the GOP is on this extreme end of the political spectrum. But the radicalization, if you want to call it that, isn't just happening in Texas, right? Tell us about this disturbing new campaign rhetoric from a Republican Senate candidate and former governor in Missouri.
So I often say I've lost the ability to be totally shocked in covering politics, but when I saw this video pop up this morning, I was somewhat shocked. It's Eric Greitens, who resigned in disgrace in 2018 as governor amid sexual assault allegations. He's denied them, just for the record. He posted, this is the start that you're seeing. This is the start of the ad. So he's walking down what looks like a suburban street with a long gun. He cocks it and says it's time to go rhino hunting. Now, he doesn't mean rhino, R-H-I-N-O. He means rhino, R-I-N-O, Republican in name only. He then, with a tactical unit by his side at a house, they bash the door down. Greitens walks in amid smoke and says, it's rhino hunting season. There's no tagging and no bagging limit, and we won't stop until we end their, blah, 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 blah. Given what we've seen from the likes of Adam Kinzinger yesterday saying, look, violence is a real possibility. I've had threats made to me and my family. Given the rhetoric and the rhetoric, how it played out on January 6th, it is a remarkable thing. And most depressingly, it'll probably work and accomplish what Eric Greitens wanted. It had 850,000 views the last time I looked. It had been up for 3 or 4 hours. He'll use it to raise money. But whether it works or not doesn't mean whether it's right or not. And it's clearly not.
It's time to go rhino hunting. I can't believe he said that. Chris Cillizza, thank you.
Thank you
for your reporting. Andrew is back with us. Ben Ginsburg's back with us. Andy McCabe, Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger, got a death threat sent to his house at the top of the hour. We heard him warn that more political violence is on the way. And now you have this Missouri Senate candidate calling for moderate Republicans, aka rhinos, to be hunted. How concerning is this moment, and how can the federal government address that kind of dangerous rhetoric when it comes from prominent politicians?
Well, I think you used the perfect word earlier when you referred to it as radicalization. That's what we're seeing here. It just so happens to be taking place not in a foreign terrorist organization or among a fringe right-wing group. It's actually taking place in a major political party, Republican. You saw the video from the Republican convention in Texas, and now you have this Eric Greitens is running for office as Republican. It's not just the congressman who's warned that political violence is likely. We got a similar warning from the Department of Homeland Security just a week ago, and it is well known that extremists use these sorts of perceived grievances to fuel the hatred and the anger that ultimately erupts in acts of violence. So um, for people or maybe I should say formerly in positions of public trust and in politics, like the former governor, to say things that would appear to be encouraging violence or the hunting of political opponents is just unbelievably dangerous and irresponsible. What can you do about that rhetoric? Very, very little. That rhetoric is protected as First Amendment protected speech in this country. So it's really up to people to be responsible and to temper their own rhetoric, which seems to be something that no one's doing anymore.
Well, and I'm thinking about the videos we've seen now at a couple of these hearings where you hear directly from insurrectionists saying, I came here because Trump told me to come.
Right.
So people are listening to these politicians and are taking their cues from them. How dangerous, Ben, is it that Trump's false election conspiracy is about to become the official platform of the GOP in Texas?
Well, it's very disturbing that this is happening. It's a time when the Republican National Committee itself should step up and say it is not appropriate to have state parties or gubernatorial candidates saying such things. Now, I've been to Texas Republican conventions. They are a spirited group, and they do not represent, even today, the mainstream of the Texas Republican Party. John Cornyn and Dan Crenshaw are the elected officials, and they got there by getting elected, which nobody in that convention did. In terms of Greitens, it's worth noting that the Republican national leadership knows that it would be bad for Republicans to have Greitens as the nominee, and Mitch McConnell's super PAC and other national groups are backing other candidates in hopes that Greitens does get defeated. But the larger point is that Donald Trump's rhetoric has caused an uptick in violence, as Andy said, that is absolutely 100% right, really disturbing. Donald Trump had his day in court. He lost all but one of the 64 cases he brought.
Regarding the election fraud claims, right?
Yeah, with the election fraud claims, and to continue with the rhetoric when he couldn't produce evidence and couldn't win in court puts the country in a really bad place.
Ben Ginsberg and Andrew McCabe, I really appreciate your discussion, your thoughts today. Thank you so much.